am the Jason Hodge, and you have tuned into Mastering Your Media, the series. I'm talking today with LaShonda Henry, aka SistaSense, and we're just talking, shop talk on media and all of that. Look, this woman is so interesting, so amazing, and so dynamic. I'm excited about the conversation we're going to have today. I have known LaShonda for years. We first met on Periscope like 5 years ago, and I've just followed her throughout those years, just watching the value that she brings. I mean, absolute value that she brings to her audience, brings to her marketplace, brings to the people that she serves, and just the giving heart. She's not only a business mogul, she also has a heart for children. We were just talking about some of the stuff that some of the many things that she has created, from her whole career, from, out of college all the way up through her almost 2 decades in business as an entrepreneur. She's a publisher, an author. She is an event creator. She has her own platform. And we're going to talk about that today. What do you do when you're starting out and you are so new that folks may not necessarily want you on their platform because they don't know what you've got going on? Well, LaShonda said, you know what, bump all of that. I'm going to make my own platform, and then people can come on my platform. And guess what happens? Not only does she have her own platform that people come onto, they invite her to their platform because she is a boss at what she does. So without further ado, LaShonda, aka SistaSense, I am so happy that you're here. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I was like, I gotta share this.
Yeah, so LaShonda, okay, we've been talking for almost an hour before this whole thing started. Okay, I was like, okay, we're gonna have to start because, the conversation is so interesting. There's so much that we have to talk about. We're definitely not going to be able to cover it in the time that we have today. So she's definitely going to have to come back. But let's start out. We're going to do house cleaning first because you've got a 30-day challenge that you've got going on. Let's talk a little about that. And then we're going to dive into, because I need folks to understand why they need to take this seriously. And so I want you to, I always like to start with dessert first. So let's talk about the 30-day challenge. What you got going on, sis?
As an entrepreneur, I love to motivate other entrepreneurs to do what they need to do to get clear about monetization, marketing, and sales. So right now we've got the Sisters Who Sell 30-day challenge. I think every month you should be proactively working on your monetization, your marketing, and your sales. And I like to keep it keep it seriously simple. So the goal is to motivate whatever month you're in, motivate you to strategically working on in your business, generating sales, and giving you an action activity to do each day for 30 days. We want to make these things habits, and we want to make sure that we are exploring different ways to do different things in our businesses. Sisters Who Sell 30-day experience on SistaSense.
Awesome. Okay, so that's where we're starting. Now let me show you why you need to take everything that comes out of her mouth uber seriously. All right, so we were talking about your career, how you started, and I want folks to get the benefit of that conversation. So you started out, coming through, you grew up in Brooklyn, right? And you were exposed to a lot of things that literally just exploded your mind into the possibilities of what life could be, what life is, and how you could take advantage of all of that. So I want to talk about, when you started out, some of the ups, the downs, all the stuff that people don't normally talk about that folks need to know. What was that like when you first started your whole process?
Well, it's interesting because, I'm a Brooklyn girl. I don't know if you hear the accent, but my father passed when I was very young. And my mom, she would always say to me, if I can't give you something, if I can't teach you something, I'm going to find somebody who can. So from a very early age, she always put me in different programs. And I went from, being in in a small elementary school on Flatbush to being a part of Brooklyn Technical High School. It's a specialized high school, by the way, and doing different programs at Cornell University and NYU. On the weekends, everybody else is watching cartoons. I'm going on NYU to do work and work on science and technology, going to places like Cornell University. But because of all of what what she created for me, I was able to get into many colleges, NYU being one of them, Cal being another. But I decided to go to Columbia University and study computer science because I studied computer science in tech. So I always had a love of technology. My mother also I would say that she infused in me this desire to go and seek out what I wanted to see. For me, being a Brooklyn girl, I wasn't a place where I could get all of these cool jobs like other people or in the mall or whatever. And I said, you know what? I want to create computer games. I want to teach kids how to do websites and all the little things that I was teaching myself at home. I wanted to do those things. So I started to teach myself and then teach other kids. And then turn that into something that I could monetize. So for me, it started very early, having a desire to do technical things and then turn those things into generating money.
Okay. You said, let's boil it down. That is awesome. Okay, so now, were there any constraints that you had to face that are normal that folks think shouldn't happen, as you started on your journey to creating your own enterprise?
Yeah, a lot of times traditionally when people talk about entrepreneurship and business, they're like, you got to bootstrap it. You start off on your shoestring. I always say, folks, look, baby girl didn't have no shoestring. I have floss. Okay. I have floss string. Okay. So I knew that, I wanted to build a website. My first domain was on I don't know, some old platform. I think I spent like $5 on the domain or something crazy like that. Going into it, knowing that I had very little was number one. And number two, not seeing, sometimes you have to be able to see a thing to believe it can happen for you. Not having those kind of entrepreneurs and business owners around me, I had to visualize what I wanted to see. I used to say, because I had one of my first websites, Multiple Shades of You Online, for people of color, I said, you have to be the change you seek, because I couldn't see it. Right. And I've been doing this for 20 years now. Now you could drop a hat, throw a pin, or as they say, whatever. And everybody want to be an entrepreneur. It's cool to be an entrepreneur. Folks didn't know what the hell that was when I started. So I had to be the change, and I had to find the change. But I mean, I will say, long story short, I was working 9 to 5 after college full time. And then I was doing things as a side hustle, Sista, helping people with their tech, building websites. And then I got pregnant. When I got pregnant, I said, wait, I need to be at home. I need to be at home. For a lot of reasons. I would say 2 in particular. I remember my mother was working 2 jobs, and she would get me up at 2:00 in the morning to be like, this homework ain't right. Do it over. And I would remember her having to take time off to go on a trip with me. And if she wasn't there, I was just going with the class. But I am in a position where every trip, everything that goes on, every experience, I'm there, right? Because I'm working at home. So I wanted to have that experience for him. I left my job when I found out I was pregnant, probably about 3-4 months into it. And then shortly after, we transitioned to North Carolina because New York, gentrification is real, and Brooklyn is real expensive. So we left before all that. Because in order to make something a reality, you can find a way or find an excuse, but you can't do both. So I found a way to work on my little pennies and my shoestring budget by knowing that I wanted to do this, transitioning my side hustle into a sustainable business. And a big part of that was relocating from New York to North Carolina, where the cost of living was less and I could stretch them pennies a whole lot more.
Nice. Okay, so you actually touched on quite a few different areas that okay. So you now went from, okay, you found out you're pregnant and you knew, okay, I want to be at home. Okay, so what was that thing that went from you're out there kind of spreading your wings, doing your thing, now you find out that you're pregnant, you want to be home. What was that transition? Why did you go from, because I hear a lot of folks saying, oh, hey, I don't want to give up my career, okay, to to be at home and all of that. They look at it as a deficit. It sounds like you looked at it as an opportunity or a benefit. Okay, what was that went through your mind on how you needed to pivot in order to accommodate your being at home?
Gotcha.
Hmm.
My
I know
bookshelves
it's a long
over
way to get
here.
to that.
I'm looking over here because my bookshelves
Right.
are there. There's a book, The Mahogany Mama Pregnancy Guide by
Mm,
Kimberly Seals Allers. I'm
okay.
all black every day. I'm blackety
Yeah.
black black. And so I say that to say, when I got pregnant, I went to Barnes and Nobles because that's my
Right.
spot. And I said, I
Right.
want to find a pregnancy book for black women.
Okay.
Something, please.
Okay.
Kimberly Seals was there. I read
Hmm.
her book, and there was a chapter where she started talking about sitting at her table, looking at her
Hmm.
kids. She's got two of them, thinking,
Hmm.
she's in the corporate world. She wants different for herself. She wants to get in business. And that moment,
Yeah.
I was like, well, if Kimberly could do it, if she's got her kids, I could do it. I can do
Hmm.
it. I saw it
Hmm.
in that vision. Funny
Yeah.
enough, fast forward, moving to North Carolina, creating my own network called the BBWO Network for Black Business Women Online. Who do I
Mm.
see submitting to join my network? Kimberly Seals
Kimberly.
Allers. I've had the opportunity to work with her, tell her the story many, many times over.
Mm.
But that's what happens when, before the vision is even a seed, you see it,
Right.
right?
Yes.
Um, and that was a motivation factor for me. I knew at that
Hmm.
moment, if she was a woman of color and she had her babies and she self-published her book, and well, not
Hmm.
self-published, forgive me, she works with a publishing company to make that
Hmm.
book, but then she came out with work at home jobs for moms. I was like, oh, she made it real for me, and that was
Right.
it.
Okay, and so now in making it real, because there are so many who have constraints. They'll see something, and then the immediate next thing is, yeah, but that worked for them. Oh, yeah, well, they're corporate. Yeah, well, they have certain whatever that is, fill in the blank. But for me, my situation is different. I could never. So, how did you bridge the gap? Did that ever come into your thinking when it came to your making that transition?
You know what? I love quotes. And there's a quote that says something to the effect of, if plan A doesn't work, don't worry. There are 25 more letters in the alphabet. And I was telling you just a little bit, when I graduated Columbia University, I was interning at IBM for about 3 years. And guess
Right,
what? You know what happened when I graduated? The dot-com bubble popped. All them
right,
companies that was putting money into web technology were like, skirt, we got to close that department, close that department. I
right.
didn't get the full-time job at IBM. I thought it. I was not a corporate girl. I actually went
Mhm,
into nonprofit counseling and
mhm,
doing education. So I didn't have corporate money. I
mhm,
had
mhm.
nonprofit money, which was not a lot for me because I wasn't no CEO, right? I'm just
Right.
at the bottom of the bottom counselor. But
Mhm,
still, I knew that I was going to figure out how to do this because at the
mhm,
time while I was doing my counseling, I was doing my side hustle, building
mhm.
websites, doing tech. Oh, if this doesn't work, I'm going to try this. This doesn't
Yeah,
work, I'm going to try this. I always believe that, one of my other favorite quotes, never compare your beginning to somebody else's middle. So while
right.
Kimberly and other people that I could see maybe on some level motivated me, I
Mhm.
couldn't mirror my story as theirs because that was not my reality. What I needed to do was
Right.
find out how I could realistically monetize, share services, create
Mhm,
products in my floss string, in my
mhm,
world, and make
mhm.
that work. So understand that you've got to pivot, you got to think out of the box. You can't 100% compare you are to where somebody else's is because their situation is not yours.
Right.
And find solutions that can work for you, that can grow with you, because this is
Mhm.
entrepreneurial. This thing called entrepreneurship, it's an evolution process. So
Yeah.
if you're in it for the long haul, you'll find the solutions. You'll go from A to B to all the way to Z to find the
Mhm.
strategies that can work with you over time. And that's what I did.
So what do you say to a person who says, you know what, SistaSense, I have a dream to be financially independent. I've got ideas. I just don't know where to start because
I
I see that
love
all
the
the
I love the concept of testing till you find your best, test till you get to your best, because I'm going to tell you, I've tested a lot. My whole name, SistaSense, the name is me making sense of making money online, because I did everything. Your girl was a Jackie of all E-trades. I was like, wait, you can make money buying stuff. You can make money reading stuff. You can make just anything that I could find, right? Test until you find your best. And then number 2, I truly believe in divine right timing. My first self-published book, which was this one right here, A Better Today Brings a Brighter Tomorrow, right? I did this book and I did a poetry book. And my hubby said to me, well, we were just dating at the time. He said, you know what? I like your poems. Why don't you publish that? And I was like, I think I'll do that. If somebody said something to me, I monetized it, Right. Someone said to me one day, man, I like your website. Who did that? I was like, I did that. They were like, can you make me one? I was like, I think I can do that. So there was never a time when I felt like I was stuck. I would try different things, figure out what worked for me. And then I was always listening intently, because I believe that we all have gifts. One of my favorite quotes is, you can always be fired from a job, but you can never be fired from your gift. So find your gift and you'll never be out of work. Because I was a techie girl and I lived in an apartment in Brooklyn. Folks were like, oh, LaShonda, can you tutor my kid? Can you help them with computer stuff? Can you teach them this? Can you do that? I was like, yeah, I could do that. $20 an hour. My mom would always say to me, you are like your great grandmother, because she loves money and you do too. And it wasn't necessarily the money that I love, but I love the freedom and flexibility to turn anything into something I could monetize, something I could say, I don't have to work for anybody else. I can work for myself. And so that's it. I mean, I think ultimately a lot of the things I did, again, number 1, test till you find your best. Number 2, intuitively, when people would recommend things to me, I would say, hey, let me be open to that. Sometimes we are not open, right? To hearing. We're like driven on one thing and we're not open to hearing what other people are saying. And number 3, if there was a need, like iRobot, I remember that cartoon, see a need, fill a need. If some folks said they had a need for something, if I could do it, I'm going to monetize it. Just like that.
So I love that. I love that. So now you went from all these ideas making sense out of, and you see, so you just answered my question, because I was going to ask you, how did SistaSense come about? So there you go.
Making sense of making money online. That's what SistaSense is all about.
So now, so you went from making your own site, making other people's sites, teaching people how to do things, and you still do all of that right now.
Yes.
You still do all of that right now. So it's like you made money on something and then it's like, okay, that's a moneymaker. So I just keep that in my wheelhouse. So how did you then go from, and this is an obvious question, you kind of answered that already, but you went from now having no publications of your own. Now you got publications of your own. So let's talk about that journey real quick. And then how the listener can translate that into their own life.
Got it. Love it. I believe that at the end of the day, like I always like to say, you can find a way or find an excuse, but you cannot do both. So baby girl was going to find a way. I love the idea of traditional publishing, but at the time when I was getting into it, I had built my website, Multiple Shades of You Online, number 1. And then I was building my social media network, the BBWO network, on the Ning platform, number 2. So thousands of people are on that platform. And I'm like, you know what? I want to get into publishing. Somebody said to me, well, honestly, if you go the traditional route, they can do things for you, but you're, number 1, you're designer. So you're already doing it for yourself. And number 2, you already have a following. So just do it yourself. Right. So I got into self-publishing. A lot of us nowadays will be on Amazon, but Lulu.com was the first platform that I got into publishing my books on. And I'm like, honestly, if you have Microsoft Word or Google Docs, you can make your document and you can produce it. And then funny enough, and I can just kind of like, I'm going to pick up this is, I bought a stack. These are some of the things that I've published over the years. This one's super old. A better today brings a brighter tomorrow. How old is this thing? Let me see the copyright date on this thing.
Mm-hmm.
I basically said to myself, 2007.
Wow.
I said to myself, if I can self-publish, I don't have to wait for nobody else, number one. And number two, I said to myself, if Oprah can be on the cover of her magazine, I could be on the cover of mine. So I went from self-publishing books and magazines like this one, SistaSense in print, to, you know, doing things for kids. I just believe that at the end of the day, you can find an excuse or you can find a way, but you cannot do both. If you got Google, if you got Google Docs, if you have WordPress, if you got Canva, you can self-publish today. You don't have to wait for a traditional publisher to approve yourself. And that's what I did. You know, it's funny because my sister would say to me, you know, traditional Brooklyn girls, right? Be like, you know, you never let anything stop you. If, you know, if a guy didn't like you, okay, on to the next one. If you didn't get that job, okay, on to the next one. And a lot of times we let things block us and not realizing that internally we become our own block. And I'm like, you know what? If you don't think I'm cute, guess what? He think I'm cuter. You know, you don't want to give me that job. Guess what? I'm gonna make a job. Traditionally, I'm not in a place where, you know, we grew up in an apartment, not a house. I couldn't do, you know, the lemonade stand, but I'm gonna find a way to make some money. So that's the thing. I want people to listen to those internal voices and realize that sometimes it's not other things but yourself that's blocking you. And honestly, there's the traditional way of doing things. And then there's the self way of doing things. Self-publishing became a part of my journey, and I encourage other people to tap into that as well.
Okay, so now the education, you know, that comes with all of that. I mean, you know, you kind of come with a certain mindset about this stuff.
Yes.
Okay, so you don't get stopped. Did you know all of the things that you had to know when you started self-publishing, or did you just say, I'm just going to do this and then let the information show up? How did that work for you?
I didn't know. I just said, I'm going to do I just said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to jump in, you know, as entrepreneurs say, take that leap. And, you know, my hubby was a big part of that because he was one of those people who would read something and say, man, this is really good. You should share that. And having that support, I was like, okay, I'll do that. Because there was no other support. You know, there was people saying, well, why are you trying to do that? You can make so much. You're so smart. You went to Columbia. You should have a corporate job. Girl, make that money for us. Come on now. You know, when folks are like, you so damn tall, you need to be in basketball. Come on. You know, do it for the I was like, I get that, but your desire is not me. This is what I want to do for me, right? And so all the people who were naysayers and, well, why are you trying to do? I always say, first they'll ask you why, then they'll ask you how. Right? Everybody was asking me, why are you trying to be an entrepreneur? Why are you trying? This don't make no sense. You need to get a good job, right? Now that I'm established and I've done a lot of things, they come to me, girl, you know how you did that? I'm trying to get this, you know, this business off the ground. You know, help us out. So, I always think about, and again, I'm very much a quote kind of a person. One of the quotes that are near and dear to my heart is, never let somebody who's never done what you have set out to do have the power to discourage you. And that's a big one for me because not everybody in your circle has the entrepreneurial mindset. A lot of people have the 9-to-5 mindset. And because of that, because of limitations they see or they set on themselves, they will verbally set those limitations on you. Literally, I had people saying to me, you're in a rent-controlled apartment in New York. What the hell is wrong with you? Why are you leaving? Because it's gentrified and they're trying to kick me out. Literally, I had people saying to me, you crazy. You should be going to get that corporate job. If you ain't get IBM, find another one. You techie. No, I want to work with kids. I want to do nonprofit. I had people fight me at every level of you ain't making no money. Like, I see your hubby, he's taking care of your son a lot because he was Mr. Mom a lot when I was trying to get this business off the ground. You should be the mom. I said, let me tell you something. My family's good, right? Challenging the dynamics of my home. You know, oh, okay, well, how come you making the money and he's working with the baby? You're the mother. You should be doing that. Never let these people who are not qualified They're not qualified to tell you what to do because they've never done what you're trying to do. There's so many people out there listening to internal or external voices of unqualified people telling them, don't make that product, don't go live, don't do that, you're going to get sued. That ain't going to work. You just need to stay in your lane.
Yeah.
Literally, let me tell you a funny story. When we were leaving New York, my son's pediatrician said to me, you'll be back. You'll be back. Because, all these people leave New York and they all come back. You'll be back. Right. I had somebody in my building say to me, what are you talking about? You ain't going nowhere. We all here. We lifers. Grandma give the apartment to mom. Then mom give the apartment to you. Then you have a baby and give the apartment to them. We talking about leaving. Right. There's no leaving this. And the reality is, guess what I did? And they come back and they say, oh my gosh, you've been gone for how many years? We've left New York and North Carolina. I go by my son. He's going to be 14 years now. We went from an apartment. Now we have a house. Now we have several cars. People, girl, when I go back to New York, it's girl, man, I can't believe you did it. Because they couldn't see the vision. You got to see your vision before anybody else. And you got to stick to your vision, even when your eyes and what you see is your current reality. I always joke, Jason, I'd be joking about drinking apple water. It wasn't easy. The transition wasn't easy. We had to drink some apple water in the process, right? But I still saw the vision, even if my eyes didn't see it. I believed it enough to know that I'm going to let them stop me. And I encourage other people to do the same. Let me get off that soapbox. Boy, we be here forever.
I love that. That is so on point, though. It's so on point because, folks can stop you if you allow it, and you can stop yourself if you allow yourself. So you didn't allow your lack of knowledge in an area to stop you from diving headfirst into that area. What was that journey like? Was there a certain type of training that you had to go through? What did you do?
I think it's a combination of tapping into those gifts and entrepreneurial spirit. I'm a researcher at heart. So Barnes & Noble's was my library. I went in there, I found every self-publishing book, every entrepreneur book. I got a couple of them on my shelf, right? And then also took advantage of opportunities. The internet world, like I said, people were so happy with the WWW when it started, right? That they were putting a lot of money into it when I was working in IBM, but they didn't really know what they were doing. They were just putting the money in. Then the dot-com bubble burst, right? Over the years, we've seen an evolution in technology where people are now comfortable with apps. We didn't have that before. People are comfortable with buying online. Folks was like, buy something online. What's that? Now buying something online is so much of a norm. We're closing the offline brick and mortars. They're shutting off in record numbers, right? That wasn't happening when I started, right? Everything was new. We've come to a system now that other people are knowing. I was in the pioneer stage where we were creating the system. Digital products. I was selling digital products before people even know what the hell those were, right? Predating things like Kindle, predating, oh my gosh, Netflix and chill. Like, what's that? It was very much a new territory. So doing whatever I could do to research, but honestly, just going in and taking advantage of the platforms at the time. There used to be a platform called, well, it's still in existence. I don't really use it as much as I used to, called eJunkie. So, when these platforms came out, and eJunkie was a platform to sell your digital products, I took advantage of them and I learned them. So being on the cusp of technology, doing your due diligence and researching, right? And actually, the big word for me is implementation. I always like to say ideas are great, but implementation is better. I'm a smart girl, smart cookie, Ivy League girl. And we can do a lot of research, but if you find yourself in analysis paralysis where all you're doing is researching, you're not going to move forward. Ideas are great, implementation is better. So I did the research, did the work, worked on building my community. And then, I was on platforms like MySpace and what was it called? Black Planet had something. Oh, yeah. Black Planet. I think that's what it was. Just taking as much from these networks as I could, and then learning that I had to create my own network. So funny enough, nowadays we have things like Facebook groups. But before Facebook and Facebook groups, we had MySpace groups. We had Black Planet groups. We had forums on Yahoo groups.
Listservs and yes.
Right. So being in a place where I said, you know what, not only am I going to join these groups, but I'm going to create my own communities, create my own networks. That was a part of the process. Ideas, implementation, creating a brand. I look at it and I say a lot of people pay millions of dollars to do what I just did based on intuition. But honestly, if you're truly an entrepreneur, the higher up you go, you realize that the ideas that they're just common sense. And you hopefully anyway, businesses that don't go out of business. These marketing strategies, create your brand, create your group, they just become a part of what you should be doing. That's kind of how I evolved over the years.
You have a way of really nurturing your process from start to finish. It's phenomenal actually watching you do what you do. And in that nurturing process, there is a level of deep trust that is built, and over the years, I have never had any hesitation or apprehension on sharing your content out. I can't say that for most of the folks that I run into, but I know that if I share LaShonda's stuff into any of the stuff that I've got going on, they're going to be well taken care of. Great, solid information. What about you makes you be that committed, maybe I should say, to that nurturing process?
Great question. I believe that it's multifaceted, and I will share two things. I never considered myself to be this kind of person, but over the years, several people have said to me, I think that you're an empath. You're very, there's a difference between being sympathetic and empathetic. You sympathize for that person. Oh, I feel bad. You empathize, you're like, oh my God, stop everything. This is it hurting me internally. That's how deep you feel for people. And being that kind of person, I always say that I know I started off on a floss-string budget. I never want anyone to be in a place where they can't get quality for a reduced rate, right? We all know that the cheaper it is, the worse the quality is. I've always committed myself to giving people what I wanted was at high quality at reduced rates, having that empathic nature in me, number one. And number two, I believe that ultimately you have to know who you are. And again, I feel like I can say that I'm a beautiful person, but at the same time, I know that I've gone through things where people didn't think I was that beautiful. And internally, at the end of the day, I had to be able to say, I'm okay with me. You got to know who you are at your core. So I don't change. When you know who you are, you don't change. Yes. When you are like clay and people can mold you in any shape or form, you're not consistent. Right? Today you're doing this, next day you're doing that. Funny enough, coming from a Caribbean background, I always talk about in living color.
I didn't know that. Okay.
You didn't? Oh my goodness. My parents are from Jamaica. My parents are from Jamaica. Coming from a Caribbean background, I always used to laugh at in Living Color the family with the 15 jobs. Right? I said, today you working on the airlines, tomorrow you a chef, the next day you writing 5 books. Yeah. Some people are not consistent. And a part of that is because they don't know themselves, right? Or they're just trying to do whatever hustle they can do to bring in some money. Right. When I teach, I say, teach from your core. So I define the core to be your core gift and talent. I understand that in my core, I love computers, I love children, I love web design, I love graphics design, I love technology. This is my core. And so everything that I do is an extension of my core. Writing books, design, layout. I used to be a layout editor for my high school magazine. That's my core. Helping people build their websites, that's my core. Teaching people, I always wanted to be a teacher. That's my core. So it's always consistent. And that's what I encourage people to do. Work on their self-awareness, understanding who they are at their core. And you can do different revenue streams, because I do, but they all stem from my core gifts and talents. They're not like random. And that's where that consistency comes from too. That empathic nature, connecting to people and understanding who I am at my core.
So what do you see now moving forward? Because you've got these projects that you've got going. You've got let me see, did you just do a summit or you're coming up on a summit?
Whew, always something. Last month, I did the book business summit for author
Yeah.
entrepreneurs, followed
Yes.
by the Back to Business virtual conference. I do that every year
Uh-huh.
for entrepreneurs. And
Uh,
I've got Print Your Profits, a workshop, a one-day workshop coming up next week. So there's always something.
right. Right. Yeah. And what I used to remember that I absolutely loved was your fire, 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 fire. you know,
Yes, got to bring that fire, 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 fire and focus.
So let's go through the list because you've got all of those books. There's one thing, of course, that we have many affinities for, but we were talking about your love and desire to help the next generations come up. So the work that you do with kids, you've got a publication with Bright Colors, and let's talk about that a little because of course, that's my heart. I run programs in schools and this is what they need to hear. So let's dive into that. Tell me
Sure.
about how that started and what that looks like, how that's continuing to roll out and develop.
Absolutely. So, I always say be the change that you seek. When I
Yeah.
started online, I didn't share this anecdote with you, but I'm very blackety black black. So, when I was trying to build my first website, I was looking for things around Black women. I saw this
Right.
cartoon called Hey Moni, and it stars two
Mhm.
Black women. And I was like, wait a minute, I've never seen an animated cartoon with Black folk. What's this? I was addicted. And so I started to research animation, cartoons, Black women, and I saw a lot of triple X Black stuff that
Mhm.
was not
Yeah.
quite what I wanted to see when I was
Right.
searching for things for Black women. And so in
Mhm.
that space, going 2 decades back, I said, you know what? I want more Hey Moni. I want more
Mhm.
positive content. So I created my first website, Multiple Shades of You Online, because I knew
Mhm.
that there were multiple shades of us as people of color, as Black people, and that need to be shown.
Right.
I have an affinity for young people because my mom, my father died when I was young. My mom was
Mhm.
single and she was like, look, if I can't find something for you, I'm going to find somebody who can help you. And I picked
Mhm.
that torch up.
Mhm.
If I could help kids, I would help them.
Mhm.
And I've created, like, it started with this one, A Better Today Brings a Brighter Tomorrow. And
Mhm.
this is about enrichment programs for students of color, after school, career, mentoring, pre college, summer, volunteer, internships. My mama found all this stuff for me. So I was like, let me
Mhm.
put together something to help other parents who need that. This was
Yeah.
again from 2007.
Uh-huh.
And when my sister had my first nephew, I
Mhm.
created the Little Bits Kids because I was like, I want to create something. I created bedtime stories for kids.
Mhm.
Now that has evolved into Bright Colors. Bright is an acronym that stands for Brilliant, Radiant, Intelligent, Talented, Exceptional. Our kids
Mhm.
need to know that they are brilliant, radiant,
Yeah.
intelligent, talented, and exceptional.
Yeah.
And this honestly stemmed from when I was a kid. My mom, I think it was called We Wonders or something, she bought
Mhm.
me this little magazine that was for kids. And when you were a kid, you love to get something in the mail that was sent to you.
Yeah. Yes.
And I would read that every month. I said, I want to
Mhm.
make that for the babies. So
Mhm.
I created my Bright Colors Kids magazine, which you can find on Amazon. It's a little bit
Mhm.
blurry. I think my screen is trying to focus. My apologies on that. But then there is this one, Bright Kidpreneurs. So I could
Mhm.
give kids, Black kids, examples of us
Right.
kids who are making money and living the entrepreneurial dream, and examples of things that parents and kids can do as entrepreneurial products. And then
Mhm.
this is Bright Parents is a research guide for parents. This is like my 15th iteration because back in the day I used to do Mahogany Mama, which was an e-zine.
Mhm.
um, yeah, I mean, I've always created content for parents because I wanted to do something that would carry the torch of what my mother instilled in me,
Yeah.
and offer parents who want the support to find it. Because as you know, there are a lot of us doing great things, but because we're
Mhm.
not a part of mainstream media, it always feels like a struggle to find those things. And because I love doing the research and I love creating, over the years, I've done some iteration of pooling together this information so that for the parents who are in my circle anyway, until I get to Oprah status, they can find me and they can find the support that they.
That's beautiful. So now, what all? It threw me real quick. It was like a flood of questions, just kind of. It was like, wait, which one? Okay. All right. So now, when it comes to the platforms, to the kids, to the parents, as you're helping them out, what things do you look for to really highlight so that they can get the information that they need to extract to be able to do something with it? Because I know that action is a huge thing for you.
Absolutely. I always pull from my own personal experience, to be honest with you. So when you think about kidpreneur, I said, what would be all the entrepreneurial products that I would love to do? Like Gabby's bows. I mean, she's amazing. Her bows are in Target. I said to you, one of my challenges is I didn't see me. Right. So I wanted this to be a reflection of seeing all of these little kids, this awesome little kid, bow ties, of kids going, wow, they look like me and they're making money and they're doing their passion. Right. And I also wanted them to see the support. Right. So the visualization was there. And then also just being able to, when I created this one right here, I said, well, what kind of programs was I in? I was in NYU and I did Cornell in the summertime. My mother had me in Alvin Ailey dance, this little chubby Black girl in Alvin Ailey dance. Like, I can't lift my leg that high. I mean, if it was there, she put me in it. Right. So I said, talent, music, volunteer. My mother worked for Chase, which is like JP Morgan Chase now for many years. They would proactively do like the March of Dimes, the Cancer Walk. And, again, little chubby legs, got to walk across, the bridge because we're doing the March of Dimes this year. All the stuff that she put me in became the categories for this. Because we need that. Right. And I know people who, they live on the block and they don't leave the block.
Yeah.
Or they when they leave the block, they scared. They more scared of the Manhattan, the metropolitan, and let's just be real. They more scared of interacting with the white folks than they are of whatever is going on in the inner city that traditionally people will go, grab your purse. That don't scare them because they used to that, right? But all the other nuances of metropolitans, I remember a time that my hubby and I, we would just live in Manhattan and love going to restaurants. Told a friend about a particular restaurant. They went up there, tried for like 5 minutes and couldn't find it, freaked out and went home. Wow. And that always stuck to us because that shows the lack of exposure.
Right.
And that shows the fear. Because I've gone to different events, my own, and, different platforms. My son's been to DC. He's been to Atlanta. He's been to Florida. Everywhere I go, mommy go, he goes. He knew what blogging was at like 2, 3 before most did. Right. So he's comfortable going to a place and expecting things, seeing things, and knowing that it's okay to be in a different space and look different from the people around. We need to give our kids more of that exposure.
That's right. And you know what? Speaking of exposure, because we talked about that coming into this conversation here, the exposure that you had coming up, you went from Brooklyn, you ended up ultimately counseling kids in a school system that was way different than what it is that you knew and that your friends knew and all of that. What was the contrasting difference that you saw? And then how did that impact you mentally and emotionally?
Lots of nuances here. So many levels to this onion. I went to a small Caribbean private school in Flatbush. New York.
Mm.
And I was a very smart cookie. So again, I went from there to a specialized high school to Columbia Ivy League. I remember when I went to Brooklyn Tech and I was getting into calculus and physics and all of these things, what I found out very quickly is that as a junior or senior, I'm in classes with freshmen who are in Brooklyn Tech is a very large Asian population, right? And there are people who don't look like me and they're in my classes. I'm a junior. They are a freshman or a sophomore. Why is that? Because my school was so small. God bless it. Loved it. But I lacked the classes that they were getting. Right. I have somebody in my circle right now who I know who's Caucasian, who's in college, and they basically got enough credits to credit out of all of the basic college classes. You know why? Because their high school gave them so many credits they could transfer over to college. I didn't get that until high school when I saw, wait a minute, how come my Black school didn't give me these classes? We had limitations. We had limitations. And then I had the pleasure of working for an organization called Prep for Prep, where I was doing counseling. And so we had these amazing inner city kids that are brilliant. And so Prep, such an amazing program, puts them in schools in Manhattan, puts them in schools in New Jersey, puts them in schools in Long Island that are $15,000 a semester, $10,000, $20,000. You're talking about schools where the celebrities and all these people go to. This is a huge culture shock from our urban kids, from our Caribbean kids, right? But they needed an environment where they got better exposure. I would go in these schools, number one, because I was a Black woman. They would, so there are a lot of things. Black folks and white folks, we grow up different. But if you're from New York and you in Manhattan, a whole lot of stuff is different. A lot of the buildings up there, they will have men at the front because I guess white folks can't open doors for themselves, right? But when I would come out of a cab, they would open the door and then wait, this is a Black woman who's in the car. They would abruptly, she's not coming to this building. Like, because, it's hard to get a taxi as a Black person. I'm just, even a woman in New York. Go in situations where I would get into the school. I would see now our schools, the situation, inner city schools are not that great. Go into these schools where they have fruit bowls on every floor for the kids. So as they're going to class, they're running with their fruit bowl. They're running with computers because every kid has a computer. Their cafeteria looked like what you would see in a college environment. They're sitting with their teachers and they're like, oh yeah, we're going to eat today. Or do you want to go outside? They get the ability. We're in schools where it looks like a freaking jailhouse and they're barred. And once you in until you leave, they have the ability to leave and go and eat lunch in different places and then come back and sign themselves out. They can speak for themselves. They can vouch for themselves. They believe in themselves on a different level because what they are getting in those schools is not, as we talked about, that prison, that school prison pipeline experience that a lot of our kids get. And unless you, like myself, I've had a lot of stories being fat, being too Black, being not cute enough. I could have been a different person if I wasn't strong internally. That breaks a lot of us down.
Yeah.
And those isolated experiences of schools that are downgraded and don't give us enough exposure, that breaks a lot of us down. And a lot of people I know, because they're used to seeing their parents who they graduate, they become a nurse, or they get into mechanics, or they work at, just a retail store. And nothing against those positions, but because that's what they're used to seeing, that's what a lot of the people I know have gone in. Versus those people, because they were exposed to more, now they're lawyers and surgeons and entrepreneurs like me because they had the ability to see more.
Right.
I mean, we could talk about this for days upon days, but the very clear distinction between limited inner city schools with high minority populations and these schools that Prep for Prep, by their grace and hand, were able to put our brilliant kids into. And I'm going to say this. One of the things that I love the program, but they will say, one of the things is they're putting these kids into gifted schools.
Right.
And I love the program, but let me say this. We learned very quickly, no offense, but all offense, a lot of these kids ain't gifted. They got money. Our kids are gifted because they are getting A's and A, I can't even give them a plus. Like A++ is in situations where they got to, translate for their parents who don't speak English, in situations where they got to take care of themselves and take care of 2 other kids, in situations where they don't got a lot of food to eat, in situations where they're getting invited to parties for bar mitzvahs and people are driving up in cars that they never even saw before.
Wow.
Straddling that dynamic, they are gifted. And I think that, I don't want to talk ill of the program because, again, I love the program and always will. But to say that you're putting these kids in gifted schools is to insinuate that because they are white and they have money, these kids are gifted when they're not. Because a lot of these kids used to look at our kids and go, hey, can you help me with my homework?
Right. Right.
And we're not telling our kids that they're in gifted schools and that they are brilliant and gifted as much as we should.
Right.
So, I mean, I could talk on that for a long time, and I probably said more than I said.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I do love that you said that, because, one of the things, and, over the years, I've talked about the importance of languaging, and languaging, when languaging is set up, words can be used in a number of ways, and they can predispose your mindset to thinking a certain way. So if I'm told that this is gifted, and I'm told that what I have is not, then I need to have those who are close to me reinforce to me that what I have is amazing, what I have is gifted, I am a gift. And so therefore, how do I build upon the foundation of that gift?
And
And I
what's worth mentioning is also, I love what you're saying in this conversation, because I will say this. If you're defining gifted to mean that they have more exposure and they have more resources and they have more money, yes, those are gifted schools because they have it all, right? They've got all of these things that if these same kids were going to their in-house, local schools, they wouldn't have that stuff. They wouldn't have it. So I guess on that level of the supplies and the resources and the things that they have, but that's not what we know to be gifted. It's what's in here, right?
Yeah. And the thing is that, and this is why, for me, having programs in the schools are so important, when the program itself understands that every child that you come in contact with is gifted, and you have to know how to ferret out that gifting. How do you identify the unique skill set and talents that has been given to each one of these children, and then fan those flames so that they can see it for themselves and then run with it? What I've run into is that belief system that we don't have what we need. And it's like, okay, regardless of what it is that is not given to you, let me show you the value and the diamond that you are, and let me show you how to access what has not been given to you. Let me show you how to access that so that you can always think. One of the things that is missing and that they have strategically extracted from schools, particularly Title I schools, is the ability to critically think. They've robbed the children of the ability to figure things out, and then to step out on that figuring to make something happen. Because there's this this stigma that you're going to get a pass or a fail, A, B, C, D, E, F. And I'm not saying anything's wrong with the grading system. And on the same token, everything is wrong with it. Because if you don't find out where they are coming from to see what the strengths are, because look at how we operate in the corporate world. We're never told to build our mediocrity. Okay, you don't get the paycheck for that. You get the paycheck for your expertise and your skills. And so then you play to your strengths, and then you supplement with your team anything that you're weak in. But we train our kids in the schools that they have to now strengthen the weak areas, and then they reduce their strong areas to that weak area because they're not spending enough time building that strength and then surrounding themselves with a team to cover all the rest of those bases. So we're giving them a false model and then sending them out into the world and saying, okay, now survive. And they're like, how? all I can do is mediocre stuff and nobody's hiring for that. All I can get is the jobs that my skill set doesn't come into play. My non-developed skill set doesn't come into play. So how do I thrive when all I can do is punch buttons now because that's all I've been taught to do? Because what's been taken from me, unless I had that support system around me to say, I don't care what's been taken from you, you'll never lose this because this is how I'm going to train your mind to think. What can you do with what you have? That's why I love the fact that you talk about how your mom has taken you, and it's like she's like, look, if I don't have it, I'm going to get somebody who does have it. And if we can get the parents to think that way and then show them where the opportunities there are or how to identify the opportunities, because there's opportunities that look us right in the face and we don't know what it is because we don't know what to look for. Okay, so let's dive into that momentarily, and then I know that we talked about, our time frame, so I will start to shut it down. But
we're good. There are two things as you were speaking that really come up for me. My kid goes to a Montessori and they put on a high school. So basically he's Montessori for life until he graduates for college.
Right.
Which is unconventional because a lot of people who are Montessori schools, they tend to age out, a little earlier than that, kindergarten, first grade, second grade. But he's been, and he's going to stay in that for a very long time. One of the things I love about Montessori is they'll say, look, if they start the day, because they manage their schedule, what they're working on, if they start the day and he decides that excited about what he's working on, this geography, if he want to work on day, it's okay, because he's going to have to bring in that critical thinking. He's going to do some writing. He's going to do humanities. He's going to do some of this and some of that. It'll bleed in eventually. And that intentional way of seeing things is something that has always been, to me, an amazing way as far as how they do the Montessori learning. I will say this because my son was diagnosed with dyslexia. Doing speech therapy, doing extra time, putting in the work, working with his teachers, IEP, all that stuff. Working with the teachers and putting in the extra time was work. Learning how to teach Montessori math was work because it ain't traditional. But if you're committed to a certain way of investing into your child's life, then you're going to do what you have to do, right? I'll say that number one. And number two, I will say, as an entrepreneur, I had to explore, how am I going to make this work for me when I don't know how to do this? I don't have somebody telling me what to do, right? The big question is, remember, so who's the boss? Well, when you're an entrepreneur, you're the boss. So you have to make decisions. A lot of entrepreneurs that are struggling right now, one thing they're struggling with, it's decision making, because they've been programmed through schools and through college, through their, regular job. This person is going to tell you what to do. When the bell rings, you get up, you sit down, you do this to do. So a lot of entrepreneurs come to me with degrees and how much expertise, and they're still trying to like, okay, this is how I do it. Should I move now? Wait. Should I? They double dutching because they don't. You have to confidently move and make decisions. That critical thinking is such a huge thing that a lot of us struggle with. And I'll say sometimes I have to be the mommy mentor because it ain't the technology that's sticking you, baby. It's the decision making. It's your ability to say, I'm going to do this today. One of the things that I teach, I've been doing this for the last couple of years, is how to get unstuck. Because I believe that we have a lot of OMG, overwhelmed manic geniuses. And a lot of times people find themselves stuck is because they're waiting for somebody to tell them how to do it and when to do it. Because that is how they've learned. And we have to relearn and unschool to some degree to tap into technology, right? But if we can get in that space from a very early age where we're giving them independent learning and try it, see if it works. If it don't, what's the worst that can happen? You have to try again a different way, right? It's so like, paralysis, like, they can't move if they go, but what if I do it this way and it doesn't work? So many older people in entrepreneurship are suffering from crazy degrees of anxiety, and you have to test as an entrepreneur, right? I talk about WD-40. I tell you, I always say, you know why it's called WD-40? Because it took them
Mhm.
40 times to get that bad boy right. Did y'all know that? That in
That's real.
order to get it right, you got to try and fail and try again.
Mhm, mhm,
Our system
mhm.
does not want us to do that. Our educational system wants us to learn how to do it the way it's been told. Don't deviate from that. And make
Right.
sure that if I tell you to do it this way, whether I'm right or wrong, don't ask me no damn questions. Do what I tell you to do.
Mhm.
That does not breed entrepreneurs, unfortunately. And it creates a
No.
huge problem when we become adults to have to
Mhm.
unschool.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is so on target because they make it wrong to get an answer that isn't right in certain schooling systems. Okay. And instead of taking it as, and this is what I tell my children, is that I don't care if the answer isn't the quote unquote right answer. I want to know how you came about it. I want to know what your process is. I say, because it's all in the process. So if you can get your process down and not have the stigma of what if I get it wrong? I don't care if you get it wrong. And we have been so truncated into, okay, I got an A, a B, a C, a D, an E, an F, and then equating that to who we are as people, you know? And so we take that when you have been accultured in that way from the time that you were a kid, if you're in the wrong educational system, you take that into your adult life, you don't realize the embedded fears that come along with that. That embedded fear is if I get this wrong, and really ultimately what I've identified that fear as, LaShonda, is the fear of rejection. Because people aren't really as afraid of getting things wrong as they are about the ridicule and all of the stuff, the aftermath of getting it wrong. If they got something wrong and they were pulled up in the classroom to where now the teacher puts them on display, they get the wrong answer and now they're teased or made fun of, the kids laugh at them, whatever. Now they're shut down. Now the fear of public speaking has gotten into play there. The fear of presenting something that's wrong. So they're going to overanalyze stuff to make sure that they got everything right and they won't be able to move forward. There is this stigma that is like, okay, now they're going to be branded as, oh, yeah, that's the person who gets the wrong answers. So I was listening to this speaker and he says, you have a person, they go through that experience and then they make $1 billion in their career and they go back to their 25th high school reunion and they're back in that mindset of like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna get in front of all these people that I got the answer wrong and I never was able to live that down. And it sounds funny, like how could a person who is a billionaire, be at that level or a multi-millionaire? But you see it all the time
Oh, yeah.
because, yeah, all the time. But you don't hear those conversations because you think that every time that a person reaches a certain level that they just have it all together. And no, they don't. If you are working corporate, nothing against corporate people, nothing against them. But if you're working corporate and you are not at that space where you have the affinity or the uh, I don't want to say sovereignty, but for lack of a better term, to make decisions and be okay with making a mistake because you know that in the mistake, you're going to find ways to fix it and keep it moving. And it's funny because Microsoft does it all the time. Google does it all the time. Facebook does it all the time. All of the multinational, multi-billion dollar corporations and enterprises, they fail forward. They put stuff out there to a select group of people, and then they see, all right, what's going to happen? What's the feedback? And now they haven't rolled it out to their whole community. They rolled it out to a select few, maybe 1 million people in the billion people that they serve. And we get stuck on I can't do this because it's not perfect. Well, you have 7 billion people on the planet. So if you screw it up for the first 1,000, that's okay. You've got 600 or 6,999,990 more to go, right? So we never look at it for the numbers. If we just break it down from a number standpoint, I can screw it up here, but then I will get all the feedback. Whatever negative feedback that I get, Now I know, okay, can't do this again, can't do this again, can't do this again. Okay, now let me go back. The next 1,000, what do they tell me? And you keep on getting better and better until you get it right to where now a floodgate. And the first 1,000 that said you're garbage, they're going to come back around like, yeah, I need one of those. Actually, give me two of them. You know, that's how that works. So we have to get out of that mindset. So you all see it, 30-day sales challenge. Now, I know for a fact that what it is that I shared with you early on, I've just proven why you should jump into that 30-day challenge. I just proved it. You heard her talk for the better part of an hour plus on just who she is, what she does, why she does what she does. And that's the part that I absolutely love about LaShonda. There is a bigger reason why she does what she does. And it's not just because, you know, the money aspect, that's the collateral benefit. But it's to provide things that are going to help you create the legacy that your generation should have. That is her legacy. And she's carrying the torch from her mom. So her mom passed her the torch. You know, she headed to North Carolina. She had all the naysayers say, oh, you'll be back. You'll be back. Well, it's been like 20 years. She still ain't back. And she's blowing up, doing her thing. And she wants to take you with her. She wants to show you how to do it for yourself, how to do it for your kids, and how to help them do it for their kids to come. And all you have to do is just step into this process right here, SistaSense.com/SWSC. LaShonda, last words. Please grace us with them.
This has been such a beautiful experience. I truly, truly thank you for having me here. And what I will say is, for anyone listening, the best place to start is to start, because one of my favorite quotes is, success is the sum total of the little things you do day in and day out, which means that if you want to be successful, you got to figure out what you're going to do on a consistent basis. And funny enough, when we started, I said, okay, well, let me just hold up all this stuff that I've put together over the years. Yeah. A little by little, a little becomes a lot. So you put something out there this month, you work on making it better next month, and you perfect your craft. The best place to start is to start, number one. And number two, I urge you to love you and love what you create. I said to one of my clients, she said, girl, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. It's a new year. I'm gonna start this. I'm gonna scrap that. I said, listen, you don't love your products enough. Right. She said, oh, girl. I said, you don't love your product enough. The best book of all time is the Bible. How much has the Bible changed since the beginning of time? Say that. I want to remind you that, yes, it's important to start, but for some of y'all, you need to stop starting over. Build on what you've built, make it better. That's what these companies do. They perfect, they improve, and they stick with the vision. So it's important for you to take time at it, but then also know that the process isn't simply starting something today. And if it's not instant gratification work, you scrap it and do something else tomorrow. Right? It's about working at making what you've produced better and loving it enough. Even if you don't see the reality that you want to see, you are in it to win it. You're in it for the long haul, because it takes a long haul, right? To become the people that we wish to be.
That's right. That's right. I got a funny story to that, and of course it's food related. I'm a foodie, right? So years ago, this was when my nieces, this was before I had kids and all that, but my nieces were very young. And so when they would come over in the morning time before school, I would fix up breakfast and everything just before they got their ride to school. And I remember that I had done like a lasagna one day. Well, actually, no, it was some dish. They didn't like it. And I was like, well, you got to eat it anyway, right? So then they were like, okay, so they ate it. The next day there was leftovers, like, oh, we don't want any more of that. I was like, oh, that's all right. I got something different. Well, those leftovers became something different. And so it was a different form. So throughout the whole week, all of that finished. I think the last thing was a lasagna or a soup or something. But we got that thing eaten, and they didn't know that it was something different. It was the same thing. Okay. So I say that to say this is and this is on dovetailing what LaShonda just said, what SistaSense just said, and that is you got to love your thing enough. You got to stick with it, because if you throw it out, you don't know what format your audience actually will appreciate the very thing that you were called to give, called to sow, called to pour. You won't know how to deliver it to them. Sometimes it's not the what, it's the how, the mechanism that you go about. And that is where you end up losing it. And you jump ship ahead of time. And now you're trying to figure things out because this thing that was put in you, you're like, well, it didn't work. But no, it just didn't work in the way you did it, or the season that you did it in, the format that you did it in, or the energy that you brought with it when you put it out there. Sometimes you put things out and you're kind of desperate, and folks are like, I don't know what it is, but you're making me feel uncomfortable. I can't say yes. I don't know what's going on here. It sounds like it's a good product, but you're scaring me. I'm telling the truth, right? So you got to back down a little bit and just, take a moment and just sit with it. Okay. Sit with it and understand your why. Why are you doing this? Because see, your why, when it's big enough, you always pull back to that why. I have never had a problem talking about my program in the schools because, for one, it's not about me. It's about those kids and the community that it serves. So every time that I get an opportunity, okay, and keeping up with true West Indian fashion, right? I have Ubered and Lyft drive, right? I have done my programs in school. I've worked at Mickey D's. I've done the gamut. And all of those places, when you have the right mindset about them, they're an opportunity for you to grow your enterprise. They're an opportunity for you to do your market research. I always tell folks, you know what? You want to really understand a system very well, go work at McDonald's. I said, but you can't work at McDonald's or anywhere else that you work with a consumer mindset. Anytime that you go into any place with a consumer mindset, you're going to come up lacking because you're going to start looking at the paycheck and saying, well, this wasn't enough. And you start now equating that paycheck to your value as opposed to the opportunity that's in front of you. You pay thousands, tens of thousands of dollars to go to college, to learn theory. Or you can get paid to go to college by understanding the systems that successful businesses use in order to grow and to operate. So if you were in McDonald's and you really understood who they were, what they really do, they're real estate entrepreneurs. So if you go in there and you understand their systems and you say, okay, so this has to operate in order for this to operate, and you start to now match what you do with the systems that are going to be necessary in order to grow your enterprise, you come out with a completely different outcome. Okay, so I just wanted to leave you with that. LaShonda, my goodness, I am so disappointed that we didn't do this sooner. Because I'm gonna look at this replay.
Right timing. All in divine right timing.
That's right. This was amazing. I just want to thank you for being here with us. Those last words were phenomenal. Brought some tears to my eyes. Last words were phenomenal. And I'm looking forward to when you come back again and to share more of your value. This was such a valuable conversation. So thank you. And thank you all for tuning in. For all of you who are on replay, just pop in replay. I hope you were taking notes because there were so many nuggets that were pushed out here today. Let me make sure that I put down so that you can get to LaShonda's, her offer today is the 30-day sales challenge. And what will they get in that 30-day sales challenge?
So, we're going to be working on activities every day. So today is Make Money. And it's all about sharing a bundle or a 3-for-1 offer. So a lot of times people will say, I know I need to do something. I just don't know what to do. So it's about action items every single day. And funny enough, I've done a lot of research on McDonald's. And one of the things, y'all do this as an activity. I'm going to give you a sales challenge. When you go to McDonald's and you go to the drive-thru, okay? When you order something, wait for them to say, and what else can I get you? They don't say thank you very much. They keep saying, you say, okay, I want to get a family meal, a kid's meal. And what else can I get you? I get some fries. And what else can I get you? They've worked on taking that dollar menu concept. They will strategically keep saying, and what else, and what else. Put in there for $1 fries, and you leave spending $20 because strategically they've upsold you on like 15 other things with that one statement. So McDonald's is definitely a company worth watching, and the whole challenge concept is to strategically get you in the habit of proactively selling every day. I always say to struggling entrepreneurs, you ain't selling because you ain't selling. You ain't proactively selling every day. And the challenge is to motivate you to do just that. Every day, 30 days, action activities to get you better at sales.
Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Well, thank you so much, LaShonda. Okay, so on that note, okay, look at that. Even leaves the conversation with massive value. All right, so we will see you on the next iteration of Mastering Your Media. Look, we're bringing it. We're bringing it. All right, catch y'all later.